you said you were living in two different worlds, like the kind of cosmopolitan world and then a spiritual upbringing. Do you see that kind of cosmopolitan world and the spiritual world as irreconcilable different worlds, or do you see those worlds that you can merge or mix them in some way?
Well, what I've come to realize is that everything on this planet is for the purpose of spirit. That's my perspective nowadays, in especially the stuff that we think is not spiritual. I think that's where we get our most education. You know, if we're lucky, we come to this planet, if we're lucky, for 80 or 90 years. Why spend the vast majority of that trying to get back to the place that we were before or that we're going to after? I think we're here to be very, very human. So whether it's reading Cosmopolitan or, you know, becoming lost in an addiction, whatever it is that you choose to do with your life, there's great value in that, as long as you know, are ready to move on when the time's right for you, if indeed the time is ever right. I think we're all gifted all kinds of situations to overcome, to react to not react to become better versions of ourselves. So I think, yeah, that it's not that they're irreconcilable at all. They're absolutely just all part of the same big thing.
Yes.
That's my perspective.
So some people would torture themselves and say, "Oh, I'm doing this; it's not spiritual," or "I'm doing that," and they beat themselves up about it. But what you're saying is parts of your life which you're attracted to, or themes in your life are just as spiritual as the supposed spiritual things.
Absolutely. I mean, we've all been there. We've all been in situations where we wish we'd done something differently, or we wish we were being more spiritual about a behavior or something that we feel that we should regret. We're human, first and foremost, at this moment in time. And yes, there is, I believe, a deep spirituality in every single person. We come to that when the time is right. And the sort of labels that perhaps the New Age community, religion, puts onto what a spiritual behavior is, I think, are really inhibiting, and actually are more about us behaving better, getting in line, you know, being controllable to an extent. You know, and then you're always second guessing yourself. Actually, we're here to live. We are here to sometimes make mistakes. We are here to go out and get drunk and live the ramifications of that. Not something I particularly do at the moment. I've done my fair share of that. However, we shouldn't judge anyone else who chooses that as a path, or chooses anything as a path, because we all have unique and individual ways into spirit. And whether somebody is behaving in a way that we perceive is unspiritual or not is, whose business is it? It's irrelevant. Like I said, you've got 80 or 90 good years here, if you're lucky, to live whatever suits you, as long as you're not harming anyone else, and as long as you're prepared to learn and to change and to grow. What's unspiritual? I just don't think that's a truth. I think that's, again, it's a way to sell things, and it's a way to control people to an extent. And it's a hangover from more formal-based religion.
Yeah, where there's lots of rules.
Yeah.
So, well, I hear what you're saying, and if I'm sitting at home and I like this idea that I don't have to conform to any set image or ideals, but if I'm overwhelmed with the crap in my life, and if I'm struggling, how can I be spiritual when all that's happening? How can I even begin when I'm so overwhelmed and I'm trying to get my head into spirituality?
Okay, well, I mean, that's an interesting question. I guess it's that first step, isn't it? Anyone who's in that place that's completely overwhelming, it's going to be difficult to do whatever the next step is, whether that's stepping towards spirituality or stepping towards a new job or stepping towards leaving a relationship. Whatever happens to be, you know, consuming that person is going to be very deeply difficult. But I would ask them to have faith, to have hope, I think, and also to recognize that they are spiritual beings, that the answers do lie within, and that trying to find some kind of peace, even inside of all of that chaos, inside of all that crazy, is a way to kind of access a higher wisdom and intuition, something inside them that helps them to thrive and survive, because they will and they can. And if they're in that deepest, darkest, dark night of the soul, all of this is just words anyway. They have to kind of live through it, and they will and they can, and people do every day. And then when you're on the other side of it, which is very difficult to understand right now. But when you're on the other side of it, you can look back and you can think, okay, that was a terrible, dark time. But look how I've come, look how I've grown, look what I understand about myself. And I think that's the most important thing sometimes about spirituality, is that it's not about getting to know somebody else's perspective. It's about getting to know your own and having faith that it matters and that it's true, and that your coincidences and your synchronicities and your little signs, however you choose to interpret them, are real and matter and are your connection to something far greater. So just, I guess, as one easy piece of advice for someone in that situation is begin to be open to your own divinity, not anybody else's, not what your best friend says, not what your parents say, not what, you know, the book says, but what you can possibly conjure within your own life, the little whispers within, you know, the sign, whether it's a white feather in the middle of madness or, you know, a little robin hops on your window ledge, whatever it happens to be in those beginning phases, just open to it and just see where it might take you.
Great. So be open to your own divinity. And in your following that up in your, you know, in your books, what one of the real strengths of the books is that you write about your experience in your own developing spirituality and exploring the new age scene and various spiritual things, and one of your talents is sort of translating all that experience and all that knowledge to sort of more you know, normal, I use inverted commas, normal people, but and you were saying you're talking about synchronicities there. And that's maybe one of those spiritual concepts that people new to it all have challenge sometimes getting their head round. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how those benefit your life, how you learn to be able to use them in your life, and how other people can recognize them.
Okay, so in the High Heel Guide to Spiritual Living, I call them non-coincidence because that was a bit more accessible for me at that time, and for people, I think synchronicity is like, oh, that sounds like a magical word. But non-coincidence is like, is it a coincidence or isn't it? And I think that when you start off on a spiritual path, I think in the beginning days, you have lots of really cool magical stuff happen, and you can choose to believe it is a coincidence, or you can choose to believe that it is not a coincidence and it was sent, however you choose to, from God, from the goddess, from the angels, whoever, your guide, whatever you choose to believe in, or from your own higher self, or from the cosmos or the universe. I'm not going to put labels on it, but that there is a bigger pattern there. And I think when we start to recognize those things, they start to add up and they start to become our own evidence. It's all very well and good learning about other people's evidence is fascinating, but we need our own evidence. So coincidences, non-coincidences, are kind of that magic. I found that in my beginning of, you know, going back to my spiritual path as an adult, were the things that pulled me in. They were the things that kept me true to following some kind of faith and discovering my own faith. So I would just ask people to just look out for these kind of magical happenings, and when they happen, believe them, note them in your journal, you know, chalk them up in your brain and think, coincidence, non-coincidence. And then, you know, if they feel that it's a non-coincidence and there's enough of it, and maybe, you know, it can be any, like, little things. It can be, for me, when I was writing the High Heel Guide to Spiritual Living, it was white horses, with winged white horses, really cliched, but there was flipping loads of them. They were everywhere, and it was beautiful, and it was precisely the magic I needed to pull me in and to sort of hook me onto my own faith, and to give me hope and to help me feel good and help me get through difficult times. So I think in the beginning that it's such a powerful thing to just kind of look out for these little, and it's that simple. It's that simple. Anyone can do it. Anyone can access it. It's just a choice of believing it when it happens.
So you started seeing white horses everywhere you went, and places you looked all the time?
Images. I mean, obviously there's not many white-winged horses around Leicestershire, and there might be white horses, but images of white-winged horses. And I went on like a spiritual retreat course, and I had a guide at that point who called Cerebrial. Oh, I've not even thought I talked about him for a long time. My path's kind of moved away from all of this, but at the time there's like a kid needs a teddy bear to teach them about comfort. This was my comfort of getting back into spirituality, and it was beautiful. But yeah, oh my God, they were everywhere. And I went on holiday Kentucky, where my family are from. And I'm not kidding you. They're like left, right, centre, everywhere, these blooming white-winged horses. I couldn't escape them. And it was such a gorgeous feeling. And everyone can have that kind of experience with perhaps different animal totems or words or songs. And you know, like I said, my path has moved on from then. I've not seen a white-winged horse for a bit, but that's fine. That was a point that I needed it at. Whereas now my path's very different.
Yeah.
But to a beginning, I think the universe sends you what you need at any given time. Whereas at the moment, I'm currently reeling from my husband having had a heart attack and all the kind of weirdness that's gone on with that. And I have to look at my spirituality in a really different, it's actually become more gritty, more dirty, less white-winged horses and more, how am I going to react to this? And how am I going to feel about this? And how am I going to spiritually allow hope and faith to guide me through this? But because I've had all those white-winged horses and all of that stuff that happened in the past, I kind of got that inner core strength of, okay, I don't need a white-winged horse right now. I need to know how to react, and I need to know how to have faith. And that's what gets me through these days.
Gotcha. So at the time, it was like you needed those signs, they gave you a kind of sense of new hope, a sense of being guided, that there was a kind of meaning and direction in what was happening.
Connection. Yeah, there's something, a bigger pattern, a bigger picture that I am connecting to. And whilst I didn't know what that is, whilst I still don't know precisely what that is, it was like a hand being held out to me to say, come on, we're all right, we'll look after you, you know?
And you say now at the moment, with your husband having a heart attack, your spirituality is more dirty and divine is like a kind of catchphrase of yours. Because people associate spirituality with fluffy, happy, and dirty wouldn't be a word. So can you explain what you mean by dirty spirituality a little bit?
Because I think there's religion, New Age theory, spiritual thought. It's all about moving towards the light, which is great. Like I said, when I had the white-winged horses, that was precisely what I was doing. It was lovely. It was lovely. But it's not real. Life's really, really hard. And I think there's like, oh God, there's this view that when you become spiritual, everything's going to lift and your life's going to be easy and things are going to make sense and you're going to be a little bit protected in your little white spiritual bubble. And it's not true. Life's still going to be hard. Horrible things are going to happen. And, I'm lucky, my husband had a heart attack. He's still with us. Other situations that have happened, I've been quite blessed. I've chosen to have hope and faith through all of these things. And I think that has been quite a powerful spiritual act. But generally, when I say dirty, that's what I mean is life is gritty, life is hard. It doesn't go away because you become spiritual. Now, maybe if you went and became a monk or a nun and you sat in a convent for 40 years, then things might be easy in some respects. But I think, like I said, we're here to live, we're here to get up to our necks in the bowels of the craziness of it all and do better and be better and give better of ourselves. And that's all we can do. And I think that's why it's dirty, is because we need to kind of find our own ways to cleanse ourselves time and time and time again.
It's not a sugary pill that gets rid of all the tough stuff.
No. It's nice and it can be very heartwarming and it can help you get through the tough stuff. Oh my God, it can help you get through the tough stuff. Absolutely. Having just been through that situation and other situations, like when I was pregnant with my second daughter and the doctors were telling me that the pregnancy might not be viable. And, that was a terrifying, dark time, not knowing. And there was that moment, as spiritual as I might like to think I am, there were those moments when I sank down into the negativity and thinking only of negative outcomes and, planning for the worst. And then as it happened, I was driving along and I was thinking about all of this and a van went past me and labelled on the big side of the van was in massive writing, I've never seen it before or since, it said hope. And then I thought to myself, there's that, that magic again. And I thought, of course, Alice, come on, you know better. Stop dwelling in the negativity and thinking that that's going to be the only outcome just because the doctor said something, and actually move into a place of hope. And I did. And the moment I did that, everything switched. It just literally switched. And I knew the pregnancy was going to be okay. And I knew my daughter was going to be okay. And it was me. I had to go through that internal battle to get into the dirty, and then move towards the divine. And even if it hadn't been okay, I think that would have still helped me cope with it better. But thankfully it was. And I think, that sometimes it's that mad mashup of, at that point I'd got so low that I needed that kind of hand holding again, and the hope sign came up, and it was like, right, bang. And as soon as I decided to go with hope, everything changed for the better. I think it's always straddling that dirty and the divine and finding a way through.
Lovely. And if someone sort of gets into the new age scene, or the spiritual bookstore, or the spiritual shops and the spiritual fairs like the Mind Body Spirit Fair, it's quite exciting. And in your writing you kind of take us through a lot of your journey in that. But what are the kind of pitfalls of exploring that world, do you think? What we got to look out for? Because I know you write in your book about a couple, maybe on occasion, where you might have worked with someone who wasn't so reputable, or you got caught up in things which in a way you later realized was your perspective was wrong, or that kind of thing. I don't know if you got any kind of what you'd say to someone who's getting excited by the whole thing.
I think it's like anything, isn't it? Stranger danger. Be careful.
Yeah.
Come on, people are people, and they're not all to be trusted. I've had some, I'm a tarot reader. I generally don't want to read people's tarot cards anymore. I would rather teach them to read their own. But people just pass off some dodgy stuff under the name of spirituality, and it's often their opinions and their judgments, and they can't help themselves, and it's just a human thing. So just watch out for that. Don't get, when it comes to things like, it can be really tempting in the beginning of a spiritual path to go to see psychics and spiritual gurus, and there's value in it. There's more value in exploring your own inner world and your own perspective on spirituality, and setting yourself up as, the guru, the witch, the person who knows best for your spiritual path. Yes, listen to other people, absolutely get their stories, but take it with a pinch of salt, because I've been told all kinds of junk. I've seen also a lot of really wise, wonderful people. You have to just be discerning, and you have to go with what feels right. If it doesn't feel right, and I've been in situations that, believe me, do not feel right, you have to listen to that, and then back away, and not be afraid of hurting someone's feelings, or offending them, because your path is right. And we're all, none of us are that much more advanced than others. I don't believe that's the truth. I think that anyone can get quite deep with their own divinity, their own spirituality, and their own wisdom. So it's just beginning to have a little bit of faith that you know best about your own spirituality. We're so used to handing over ourselves to other people. We hand ourselves over to teachers at school and to jobs who pay us, and then to a guru who can tell us how to live. And actually, you know best yourself.
Yeah.
And every event that's ever happened to you in your life is allowing you to know better each time it happens.
Yeah. So your own, because it's quite exciting, isn't it? Lots of very glittery people, lots of very charismatic people out there, lots of people promising the world to you. And so you're saying always trust your own inner BS detector, really.
Yeah, listen to what appeals to you. Yeah. Take it, you apply it to your own life, and then move forward. You don't need to worship at anybody's altar except your own. Go make your own in the corner of your living room or whatever, and then make that your compass.
Yeah. And one of the main it's kind of related to trusting yourself, really, like we just mentioned. One of the main issues I had walking through is how can you sort of sort out, when you're looking at trusting yourself, and you're looking at what you really, what your intuition is telling you and your inner guidance is telling you, but then that can get often quite obscured by what your own baggage is telling you, and your own old habits, and your own neuroses. And I don't know if you have any tips, or how do you think we can sort out what's from our soul and what's from our baggage, and make that decision what to act on.
Okay, well, firstly, go easy on yourself, because seriously, we've all got the baggage, and we're all going to make mistakes. Nobody is perfect. I've written some spiritual books. So what? I make mistakes all the time. Yeah. Whatever. We're all going to do it. It's part of the point, I think. But also, it's that faith. It's that trust. It's learning to listen to yourself over time. It's not going to come overnight. So that's another reason why you have to go easy on yourself. You're not going to go, right, okay, from this point onwards, I'm only going to listen to my intuition and then suddenly magically understand your intuition. It's like learning another language, because we've had it so obscured. We always have been associated with our thoughts and our minds and our heads ever since we were little children. So to suddenly become, fluent in the heart is very, very difficult, but also it has moments when it can be very easy. And we can choose to override it, and we can choose to ignore it, and we can choose to get all logical or allow somebody else's advice to take over. But then you recognize you've done that, and you realize it was a mistake, and then next time you listen a little bit stronger to the heart. We've all had moments where we know who's on the other end of the phone, or we know we have a feeling about a situation, or we know that we meet someone and we think, wow, I'm going to be really great friends with this person. We all have that. It's just learning to tune into it slowly and over time, and going easy on yourself when you don't quite get it right, or you don't listen to yourself, or you overthink. It's a process. Use patience and continued effort in doing it day in, day out.
Yeah,
and make use of the tool. Like I use tarot. Tarot helps guide me with that. Other people might use something similar, astrology or crystals, or nature. Nature's a good one. Reflecting ourselves off the rhythms of nature is a really interesting way to get to know your own inner self as well.
And what is it about tarot that you love so much? And I know you've made your own deck recently. I wonder if you could speak a bit about what you think is the value of tarot and how it's helped you.
Well, when I started reading tarot, I was like 14, 13 years old, and really all I wanted to know was whether I was going to get a boyfriend, which I didn't for ages. So it was a really disappointing relationship I had with tarot. Anyway, eventually got married. My relationship with tarot expanded and grew, and really, after the experimenting with different ways of reading and reading for other people and having cards read for me, the thing that I have come to realize is that I want to teach other people tarot, not so that they can go out and become psychics or read for other people, but so that they can get to know themselves. Because I think tarot are like a really good objective tool to give you a little bit of a guidance, a little bit of a heads up to help you through life in a healthy way. I'm just recording a video course about tarot, actually. I was just talking about this, not today, and about you can have an unhealthy relationship to anything, tarot being one of those things. You can become addicted, or become like when you're asking the cards again and again and again the same question because you don't like the answer. And I think for me, tarot are very much about just connecting to your inner self and taking that as guidance and moving on with the rest of your day and getting to know yourself a little bit deeper. I mean, the tarot has been a great tool for me to get to know myself, to explore my spirituality, and to see, again, those non-coincidences come in again and again and again, often in the form of what the cards have told me. And for one example, when my husband had that heart attack a few weeks ago, again, I went into that deep place of, oh my God, I was getting text messages from the hospital saying he was going to go into cardiac arrest from him. And I was there with my kids, trying to act like everything was normal. And at the same time, I was shaking like a leaf, thinking, am I ever going to see him again? How am I going to get to the hospital? What am I going to do with the kids? I've got to make a sandwich for the eldest one. It was just like, And I went to my tarot cards, hands shaking, and they gave me such beautiful answers at that point in time. It's all I needed to kind of get my act together. It was the guidance I needed at that moment. They just said, I got like the star card, which is about transformation from a really shitty situation to a good one. Yeah. And that's kind of the outcome in the long haul of everything that's happened since he's had a heart attack, is that a lot of healing has been called for. But it kind of helped me know that, yes, this wasn't the end. This was a moving onward, another progression, another way to look at life. So that's how I see tarot, is that they can take your fear and just transform it into something useful. And that, obviously, the heart attack situation is a very strong example, but that can be for anything. You're starting a new job and you're terrified, and you turn a card over and it just gives you the reassurance that this is the path, this is the rung you need to be on at that moment in time, and the growth that you need at any given time. That's the reminder that the tarot represents me.
Lovely. And is that where you see your own work going now? Is working with those cards, helping others understand the cards? And do you work with your own deck?
Yeah, this is. Can I show you my deck? This is the deck I designed with my daughter Ivy when she was 4. Oh, that's one she actually had quite a lot of input on, and she did the backs. Yeah, I've sort of fought it for a long time. I didn't want to be a tarot reader per se, but then that's the path I've been on, is trying not to be a tarot reader whilst being one, and which is because they kept calling to me. And actually, the way I've found my comfort place within this is actually, no, I don't want to particularly read cards for other people. I want to create with the tarot. I want to be creative. I want to be intuitive, and I want to teach other people about them. And so I found my happy place finally after many years of sort of that struggle of the tarot are calling, but I don't want to be this, and I don't want to be associated with A, B, and C, and the whole side stuff. Not that that's always bad, just my experiences of it haven't always been great. But I want to be a therapeutic tool, and that's how I'm now using them. And so I'm in my happy place with my cards. So yes, I guess I am a tarot person these days.
Lovely. And if someone wants to learn more about the tarot and wants to work with you or know more about you or read more of your work, where are you based at the moment? What are you up to, and where can we find you?
Well, there's my website, alicegrist.co.uk. I'm not offering as much as I normally would do, unfortunately, at the moment due to various health situations. But there's my books, and there's the tarot course that I'm producing, which is going to be online, I hope, really, really, like in the next day or so, or maybe the next week. And, come find me on Instagram, because I put loads of free readings, and I do loads of little live videos where I'll read for people, quick readings to give them some guidance and to get people into tarot. And that's Alice Grist on Instagram, and Alice B. Grist, just to be complicated, on Facebook. So people can find out what I'm up to, and sign up to my newsletter on my website, that kind of thing.
Brilliant. I'll put those links down in the notes below. But Alice, thank you. It's been really fun talking to you, and a real pleasure you coming on. And hope to put more of your videos and more of your video work on Books Present soon as well.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you.